Ah, so now they respect you. Now they see your worth now, when the silence has settled in, like a thick fog, and your absence echoes in every hollow part of their life. Now they understand what they had. But isn't it funny? Isn't it just comically tragic? How it takes losing something for them to realize what it truly was all along? How it takes the cruel hand of absence to make them reflect on what they once dismissed so easily. It's almost like a sick joke you were never in on, but they laugh at it now, don't they? Their eyes wide with realization as they finally understand what they had in you. But by then, it's too late, and you've already become a ghost in their world. No longer tangible, no longer present, and no longer willing to return. They only see your value now that they are left with the consequences of their neglect, of your presence, of your heart, of your time. It's when they sit alone in their misery that the haunting question arises. What if? What if they had appreciated you more when you were there? What if they had treated you like the treasure you were when you offered them the world? But now those questions don't matter, do they? Because you are gone, and they are left with the empty space you once occupied, with nothing but regret and guilt to fill the void. It's a painful irony, isn't it? How they could have had everything, but chose to let it slip through their fingers like sand. They took you for granted. They assumed you'd always be there to patch up their broken pieces, to fill their emptiness. But now that you've stepped away, they see what was once right in front of them was something rare, something irreplaceable. But that doesn't change anything, does it? They can apologize all they want. They can say they were wrong. But the truth is that they didn't appreciate you when they had the chance. And let's not pretend that this didn't hurt you, because it did. It hurt more than words can ever express. To give your all to someone and watch them walk all over it, to pour your love, your energy, your time into someone who never even bothered to notice or value it, was a betrayal not just of you, but of everything you stood for. You were never just someone to be discarded. When it was convenient, you were a force of nature, an unwavering presence, and they couldn't see it. They couldn't see the fire in your soul until it was extinguished, and now they burn with the regret of not having treated you right. But now that they are standing in the ashes of what could have been, they can only mourn and whine about how they failed. They didn't fail. Once they failed, every single time they let you slip further and further away until you became nothing but a faint memory. And now they're scrambling to piece together what was once whole. But it's too late. It's too late because they underestimated you, because they thought they could afford to lose you. They thought you'd always be there to pick up the pieces, to forgive, to give them another chance to make things right. But you're not there anymore, and now they're paying the price. You can't just come back from the edge of being taken for granted. You can't just wake up one morning and pretend nothing ever happened and it's all forgiven. The damage is done, the trust is broken, the love is gone, and now they are left with nothing but the echoes of their mistakes. Do they even know what they lost? Do they understand the depth of the hole they've dug for themselves? Probably not, because when you were there, they didn't care to look at the magnitude of what they had in you. They were too busy taking you for granted, assuming you'd always be there at their beck and call, never realizing that you were a gift, a rare treasure that couldn't just be replaced. Now they're stuck in their own mess, unable to fix what they broke. And you've already moved on. You've already realized your own worth. You've already stopped waiting for their validation. You stopped hoping they'd come around because deep down, you knew they never would not until they were faced with the cold, harsh reality of their own actions. It's a bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? To realize that you gave your all to someone who didn't even deserve it. And now that you're gone, they're left wondering how they could have been so blind. But you can't save them anymore, because you've already saved yourself. You've already walked away, and now you stand on your own 2 feet, no longer looking back at the wreckage of what was. You've learned the painful truth that some people will never appreciate what they have until it's too late. And now you understand that your value was never meant to be dependent on someone else's recognition. You were always enough even when they didn't see it. And now, they will forever carry the weight of their loss, but you will carry the strength of your own self-worth. So let them regret. Let them cry over what they could have had. Let them wallow in their mistakes, because you are done being their safety net. You are done being the person they only turn to when everything else falls apart. You are done being their last resort, their fallback, when they can't find anyone else to fill the emptiness they've created. You are not a backup plan. You are not a second choice. You are the first and only option. And if they couldn't see that, then that's on them. It's not on you anymore. You've given enough. You've loved enough. You've sacrificed enough. And now, it's time for you to stand tall and walk away with your head held high. They realized your value only after losing you, because they couldn't see it before. They couldn't see what they had because they were too blinded by their own selfishness, their own insecurities, their own fears. But that's not your problem anymore. You don't owe them an explanation or a second chance. They had their time to make things right, but they wasted it. And now, they will have to live with the consequences of their actions. You will move forward because you understand something they never did. Your worth was never tied to their recognition. Your value was always within you, and now you carry that truth with you wherever you go. So let them talk. Let them make excuses for why they didn't see it when they had the chance. Let them tell themselves it was all just bad timing, or that they didn't know what they had until it was gone. But you know the truth. You know that they had everything they needed right in front of them, and they threw it all away. You were never the problem. They were. They were the ones who couldn't appreciate the beauty of what you brought into their lives. And now, they will live with the painful consequences of that. You will continue to rise. You will continue to grow. And they will continue to be haunted by the ghost of what could have been. Don't feel sorry for them. Don't feel guilty for walking away. Don't let their regrets weigh you down. You are stronger now. You are wiser now. And you are no longer willing to settle for someone who only understands your worth when they can no longer have you. You deserve someone who sees you for who you are from the very beginning. Someone who doesn't need to lose you to realize how important you are. And that person is out there. But until you find them, you will continue to thrive on your own terms. You will continue to move forward with your head high and your heart intact because you know your worth, and that is all that matters. The only validation you ever needed was your own. The moment you stopped seeking external approval is the moment you truly began to live. The moment you realized that your value was not something that could be dictated by another person's perception, but something that was intrinsically tied to who you are, is when everything shifted. And now, they see it. But it's too late. They see it only after the opportunity to truly appreciate you has slipped through their fingers. And they will have to live with that knowledge. They will have to live with the fact that they allowed someone who was once irreplaceable to slip away because they couldn't see the treasure that was right in front of them. Isn't that the harshest reality of all? The fact that they only understand what they lost when it's no longer available to them. But here's the thing, they will always be haunted by it. Not because you want them to suffer, but because they should suffer for their own ignorance. And let's not sugarcoat this. This wasn't just an innocent mistake. This wasn't a one-time misjudgment. This was a repeated pattern of neglect, indifference, and disinterest. They chose to overlook your worth. They thought you would always be there to pick up the slack, to keep the relationship alive, while they contributed little. They assumed that their time would come, that they would eventually realize how important you were. They assumed that you would always be forgiving, and that you would always give them another chance. They didn't understand that you had a limit, you had a breaking point, you had boundaries that, once crossed, would leave irreversible damage. Now, they sit with nothing but the empty space where you once stood. They sit in the same place where you used to bring warmth, laughter, and life, but now it's just a cold and hollow room. They don't get to have you back. They don't get to rewind time and do things differently. They don't get to change the past, no matter how much they regret their actions now. And maybe, just maybe, they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to fill the hole you left. But they will never be able to. They will search for something to replace you, but nothing and no one will ever compare. They will waste time with others who are not you. They will try to distract themselves from the emptiness they feel inside, but the truth will always remain. They had you, and they lost you, and that is a burden they will carry forever. But let's be clear, this isn't about them. This is about you. This is about the strength you found within yourself. This is about the realization that you deserve more than someone who could never fully appreciate you. This is about the liberation that comes with walking away from someone who never valued your presence until it was too late. You are not here to fix them. You are not here to take on the responsibility of their regrets. That is their problem now, not yours. You've done your part. You gave your love, your loyalty, your time, and your energy. You showed up. You gave them everything you had. And when it became clear they weren't willing to give you the same in return, you walked away. You chose yourself. There's power in that. There's power in realizing that your happiness, your peace of mind, your emotional well-being, and your sense of self-worth can't be tied to someone who can't see it. There's power in recognizing that you are not a stepping stone for someone else's growth. You are not a backup plan for when everything else falls apart. You are not the last resort. You are the beginning, the whole, the entirety of everything someone could want, and more. And if someone doesn't see that, then they don't deserve you. Period. But let's not forget what it took for you to get to this place. Let's not forget the pain, the heartbreak, the disappointment, and the betrayal. Let's not forget how it felt when you gave everything to someone who didn't care enough to give you even a fraction of what you gave them. That pain was real. That heartbreak was real. You allowed yourself to be vulnerable, to be open, to invest in someone who you thought would appreciate your worth, but they didn't. They didn't care enough, and in the end, they couldn't see you for the incredible person you are. They couldn't see the love and the light you brought into their life because they were too wrapped up in their own selfish needs and desires. And that hurt. That hurt deep. It felt like being torn apart from the inside. But you survived. You didn't just survive, you grew stronger. You learned that you are enough without anyone else's validation. You learned that your value is not determined by the attention or affection of others. You learned to stand on your own 2 feet, to walk away from what no longer serves you, and to put yourself first. And in that process, you found something beautiful, yourself. That's what they'll never understand. They'll never understand the strength it took for you to walk away from someone you loved. They'll never understand how much courage it took to leave behind everything you knew and everything you thought you wanted. They'll never understand how freeing it was to finally let go of someone who never saw you as enough. And it's okay that they don't understand. It's okay because you don't need them to understand. You don't need them to validate your decision. You've already done it for yourself. You don't need their approval anymore, because you found peace within yourself. You found a sense of worth that can't be shaken by anyone or anything. And that's the ultimate revenge, isn't it? The ultimate revenge isn't getting back at them. It isn't making them feel the pain they caused you. It isn't rubbing their face in the fact that you moved on. The ultimate revenge is thriving without them. The ultimate revenge is showing them that you don't need them to succeed. You don't need them to be happy. You don't need them to feel fulfilled. You have everything you need within yourself. You are whole. You are enough. You are your own source of strength, happiness, and fulfillment. And now, when they sit in the silence of their own regret, when they are left to face the consequences of their actions, you will be out there living your life. You will be out there achieving the things you once thought were impossible. You will be out there being the best version of yourself because you finally understand your worth. And as they watch you from a distance, as they watch you flourish in ways they could never have imagined, they will know. They will know that they let something precious slip away. They will know that the one person who could have given them everything they ever needed is now out of reach, and they will have no one to blame but themselves. But here's the thing, they will never stop regretting it. They will never forget you. They will never forget the person they let go of. And in that eternal regret, they will learn a valuable lesson. They will learn that sometimes, when you take someone for granted, they don't come back. They will learn that the people who truly matter, the ones who love with all their heart, the ones who show up without hesitation, the ones who make you feel seen and valued, are not to be taken lightly. They will learn that love, real love, isn't something to be treated as disposable. It's not something that can be ignored or neglected without consequences. And perhaps, in the silence of their own reflection, they will finally come to understand the gravity of their mistake. But again, it will be too late. You will have moved on. You will have found your peace, and they will have nothing left but their own regrets to keep them company. So, let them understand your worth now. Let them mourn your absence. Let them spend their time lamenting what they once had. But understand this, you are not there to take their pain away. You are not there to ease their guilt. You are not there to come back and fix what they broke. You are there to live for yourself. You are there to keep growing, to keep becoming the person you were always meant to be. Because you are enough, and that is all that matters. The world often has a way of making us feel small, of making us question our value, of whispering in our ear that we are not good enough, not worthy enough, not deserving enough. The reality is, there are people who will look at you and try to make you feel as though you are not enough. They will take your presence for granted, your love for granted, and they will make you feel as though what you offer isn't enough. But let me tell you this, your worth has never been determined by anyone else's perception of you. It has never been defined by their ability to recognize it or by their willingness to nurture it. Your worth has always been within you, and that is something that no one can take away. Not even the people who couldn't see it when it was right in front of them. For too long, you may have allowed others to dictate your sense of self-worth. You may have bent over backward, trying to make someone see the value in you. You might have compromised your own well-being to keep someone else happy, to keep them from walking away, to keep them from leaving you feeling abandoned and unwanted. You might have stayed in situations where your heart was left empty, hoping that someday they would finally see what you brought to the table, that someday they would realize how much you were giving and how much you deserved in return. But they didn't. They couldn't. And when they finally realize what they've lost, when they finally see what you gave, when they finally grasp the depth of the connection you once shared, it will be too late. The thing is, you don't need them to realize it. You don't need their validation to prove your worth. You never did. You are enough on your own, and that is the truth you need to embrace now. The world will continue to try to define you based on someone else's standards, but you no longer have to subscribe to that. You no longer have to convince anyone of your value. It is already there. It has always been there. And now, more than ever, you see it. You see the strength it took for you to walk away from situations that drained you, from relationships that kept you in a constant state of uncertainty. You see the courage it took to finally look in the mirror and say, I am worthy. I am enough. It's painful to come to the realization that the people we loved didn't love us the way we deserved. It's painful to see that they didn't understand what they had until they lost it. But here's the thing. Their failure to appreciate you is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to see beyond their own needs and desires. It's a reflection of their inability to see the beauty in what was right in front of them. But that's not your fault, and you don't need to carry the weight of their failure to recognize your value. It's on them, not on you. For so long, you may have been the one to compromise, to give more than you received, to be the one who always put others first. You may have been the one who gave your love without conditions, who gave your trust without hesitation, who gave your energy without thinking twice. But what did you get in return? You got silence, you got indifference, you got neglect, and you tolerated it. You made excuses for them. You told yourself that they were just busy, that they didn't mean to hurt you, that things would get better. But the truth is, they didn't appreciate you. They didn't value what you brought into their life. They didn't cherish your love. And it's heartbreaking to realize that, isn't it? It's heartbreaking to realize that despite all you gave, you were never truly seen. But here's the thing. Now that you see it, now that you understand it, now that you realize your worth, you have the power to change everything. You don't have to wait for someone else to recognize your value anymore. You don't have to wait for someone to apologize for not seeing it. You don't have to wait for anyone's permission to embrace your worth. You already have it within you, and that's where your strength lies. Your power comes from knowing that you are enough, that you don't need anyone's approval to validate your existence, that you don't need anyone's recognition to prove your worth. When you walk away from someone who failed to see your value, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's a sign that you finally realize that you are deserving of more, that you are worthy of someone who sees you for who you truly are. It's a sign that you no longer tolerate being treated as less than you are. You no longer accept being treated as if you're disposable. You are not a second choice. You are not an option. You are the choice. You are the one who deserves to be loved fully, completely, and unapologetically. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to be in your life. But this journey of realizing your worth doesn't come without its challenges. It doesn't come without its scars. You may still carry the wounds of the past. You may still feel the sting of their indifference. You may still feel the ache of longing for something that was never given to you in return. But that doesn't define you. Those scars are just reminders of how far you've come, of how much you've grown. They are not a mark of your failure, but a mark of your resilience. You survived the betrayal. You survived the heartbreak. And now, you stand stronger than ever before. You stand taller because you've shed the weight of someone else's inability to appreciate you. You stand proud because you no longer seek validation from anyone other than yourself. It's so easy to get lost in the idea that love is about sacrifice, that love is about putting the other person's needs before your own, that love is about giving until you have nothing left. But love is not supposed to leave you empty. Love is not supposed to make you feel small. Love is not supposed to be one-sided. Love is supposed to be mutual. It's supposed to be nourishing. It's supposed to fill you up, not drain you. And if someone cannot love you in the way you deserve, it's not your fault. It's theirs. You cannot make someone love you more than they are capable of loving. You cannot force someone to value you the way you value them, and that's a hard pill to swallow. It's painful. But once you accept it, once you accept that someone else's inability to appreciate you doesn't diminish your value, something beautiful happens. You begin to set yourself free. You begin to see that you are worthy of more than the scraps that someone else is willing to give. You begin to see that you are deserving of love that doesn't require you to beg for attention, to fight for affection, to prove your worth over and over again. You are deserving of love that is given freely, love that is unconditional, love that recognizes you for the incredible person you are, without needing to be reminded of it every day. And once you recognize that, once you accept that you deserve more, you stop settling for less. You stop giving your heart to people who don't value it. You stop allowing others to dictate your sense of self-worth. And yes, it will hurt at first. It will hurt when you realize that someone didn't appreciate you. It will hurt when you see that they only understood your value after losing you. But the real tragedy is not in their loss. The real tragedy is in staying with someone who never saw your worth. The real tragedy is in wasting your time, your love, and your energy on someone who couldn't even begin to appreciate it. And once you come to terms with that, once you realize that your worth is not up for debate, that your value is inherent, you will never let anyone make you feel less than what you are again. Because you are enough, and that is all that matters. In the end, the only opinion that truly matters is your own. You are enough, always have been, always will be. The people who couldn't recognize your value before will live with that regret. But you've already moved on. You've learned your worth, embraced your strength, and stopped waiting for others to validate you. Your happiness, peace, and fulfillment come from within, and that is something no one can take away. You are not defined by the love others fail to give you, but by the love and respect you give yourself. And that, my friend, is all that truly matters.